Good to be with you. I'm Tony DeCopel. The breaking news right now.
We have a lot of agreement with Iran, and I think something's going to happen very positive.
Potential for peace. What the 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah militants in Lebanon could mean for a peace deal with Iran. Plus, the president's new comments on the Pope.
I have a right to disagree with the Pope.
Also developing tonight, Spirit Airlines deep in debt and on the verge of going out of business. What the loss of that budget airline could mean for your summer travel plans. And our new interview with the crew of Artemis II, their historic voyage around the moon, and what it's like to be back.
We are carrying back everything that we learned, not only about where we went, but about ourselves.
Also a sneak preview of a new movie featuring an AI version of Val Kilmer a year after his death. What Hollywood is saying.
Don't fear the dead, and don't fear me.
And the good stuff tonight, she points, he digs. But there's so much more to the duo of Barbara and Chewie.
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Tony DeCopel.
Good evening. In a moment, we'll have some news on the potential for peace in Iran. But first, for another day, President Trump and Pope Leo trade comments over the legitimacy of that war in the first place. The Pope, speaking in Cameroon on his tour of Africa, said the world is being ravaged by a handful of tyrants. And then a few hours later, on the lawn of the White House, the president responded, saying this is the real world and the Pope needs to understand that. We begin our coverage tonight with Caitlin Huey-Burns, who is with the president in Las Vegas this evening. Caitlin, good evening.
Good evening to you, Tony. Well, the president is trying to shift gears tonight, hitting the road to tout his economic policies ahead of the midterms as voters are feeling the pinch at the pump. As President Trump headed to Las Vegas today to try and change the subject from war to the economy, he downplayed rising gas prices.
They're not very high. If you look at what they were supposed to be in order to get rid of a nuclear weapon, with the danger that entails.
Gas prices have risen more than $1 since the war started nearly 7 weeks ago. And as Americans file their taxes this week, the president is touting the gains from his tax policies. But rising gas and food prices threaten to wipe out those savings.
We save a little bit of money on taxes, but we're paying so much more for groceries and for gas.
It seems to take a long time, for the prices to come back down to even where they were at before this.
It comes as the president is facing heightened political pressure to end the war, along with criticisms from the Pope, who today denounced what he called the masters of war.
The world is being ravaged by a handful of tyrants.
Trump said today he has a right to disagree with the Pope.
But the Pope has to understand Iran, very simple, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
The Pope also called out those who use religion to justify war. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has cited biblical references several times during the conflict.
But woe to those who manipulate religion in the very name of God for their own military, economic, or political gain.
Today, Hegseth invoked the Bible to compare the press to Pharisees, often portrayed as enemies of Jesus.
The legacy Trump-hating press. Your politically motivated animus for President Trump nearly completely blinds you from the brilliance of our American warriors. The Pharisees scrutinized every good act in order to find a violation.
And we learned tonight that police were called to investigate a bomb threat at the home of Pope Leo's brother in suburban Chicago. The threat was determined to be unsubstantiated, but they are continuing to investigate. Tony.
Caitlin Huey-Burns for us from Las Vegas. Caitlin, thank you very much. We're going to turn now to the Middle East and the potential for a major step toward peace with Iran. A 10-day ceasefire taking effect tonight between Israel and the Iran-backed Hezbollah militants in Lebanon, said to be crucial for a wider deal. More now from senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata in Tel Aviv.
Even in the hours leading up to that temporary truce, Hezbollah rockets struck a town in northern Israel tonight, while the Israeli military struck villages across southern Lebanon today. Lebanon's health ministry has put the death toll at more than 2,000 since fighting began. President Trump announcing on Truth Social the Israeli and Lebanese leaders had agreed to a 10-day ceasefire.
We're going to be meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, as you know, and the president of Lebanon. And I had a great talk with both of them today. They're going to be having a ceasefire, and that'll include Hezbollah.
But Hezbollah's stance on that agreement remains far from certain. That could impact potential peace talks in the fragile ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran due to expire next week. The U.S. naval blockade outside the Strait of Hormuz has already turned back more than a dozen ships. And today, the military said it's expanding to include any Iran-linked or sanctioned vessels worldwide. Iran has promised to shut down shipping lanes if it's not lifted. Meanwhile, the U.S. military has used a pause in fighting to reposition forces and prepare for any return to hostilities, according to the U.S. commander in the region, Admiral Brad Cooper.
We're rearming, we're retooling, and we're adjusting our tactics, techniques, and procedures.
So the president said again today he was optimistic a deal could be reached and said another meeting between the United States and Iran could happen as early as this weekend. But he warned if a deal cannot be reached, the fighting will resume. Tony?
We'll keep watching it, but Charlie, while I've got you, I understand the Pentagon approached American automakers about playing a role in replenishing weapons supplies. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so according to sources familiar with those conversations, the Pentagon has approached the CEOs of major car companies about helping boost weapons production in the U.S. by using their personnel in large factories, kind of like similar to what the government did during World War II. So far, no deals have been made, and talks are ongoing. The Pentagon has been trying to replenish low stockpiles reduced by both the wars in Ukraine and Iran. Tony?
Charlie Daggett for us. Charlie, thank you very much. Police in Virginia say the former lieutenant governor, Justin Fairfax, is dead tonight after he shot and killed his wife and then turned the gun on himself. Here's Nicole Scanga with more on what happened to a man who almost became governor.
Minutes after midnight, with his teenage children at home, police say former Virginia Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax repeatedly shot his wife in the basement before running upstairs and turning the gun on himself.
I think this is going to be our subject. He's got a firearm with him, self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head.
It happened kind of spontaneously within the same few minutes or two while the 16-year-old son was trying to render aid and check on his mother and call 911 at the same time.
Authorities say the 47-year-old Fairfax was in a highly contentious divorce with his wife, Serena, a dentist. According to court papers, she claimed he was a deadbeat dad who drank heavily. And while the couple lived in the family home in separate rooms, he was being forced to leave at the end of the month.
So there was obviously some strife going on inside the Fairfax household. All the stressors associated probably with any divorce were present.
In 2019, while in office, two women accused the Democrat of sexual assault in interviews with CBS Morning's Gayle King.
He forcibly sexually assaulted and raped me.
Fairfax said the encounters were consensual. He was never charged.
To contemplate or consider a rising star like Justin and how that star just fell out of the sky in a scenario that nobody ever would have contemplated.
Fairfax was 38 years old when he was elected lieutenant governor back in 2017. He unsuccessfully ran for governor 4 years later, but he had not re-entered the political scene since, Tony.
Nicole Scanga for us in Washington. Nicole, thank you very much. President Trump today nominated a new director for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Dr. Erica Schwartz is a former Deputy Surgeon General and retired Coast Guard Rear Admiral. Doctors we spoke to described Dr. Schwartz as a traditional pick, highly qualified and generally not aligned with Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. or his Make America Healthy Again movement. She'll need to be confirmed by the Senate. Now to a potential shakeup in the airline industry. 2 years after a failed merger with JetBlue, there are public reports that Spirit Airlines could be going under within days. For more on what it means for passengers holding tickets, let's bring in senior transportation correspondent Chris Van Cleve.
Tony, the surging price of jet fuel has thrown into question Spirit Airlines' plans to emerge from bankruptcy this summer and return to profitability. Airline industry sources tell CBS News some of Spirit's creditors are now questioning the airline's ability to make upcoming debt payments. Spirit is still selling tickets and operating as scheduled for now, but if its creditors should force a liquidation, it could mean Spirit would halt operations with little notice. CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg.
I would definitely have a backup plan ready. Here's what I would do. Buy a refundable ticket on a competing carrier on the same route. That way, if your Spirit flight goes okay, just refund the ticket. If your Spirit flight doesn't, you won't be worried about getting a seat home. You'll already have one.
Spirit declined to address the reports of a possible imminent liquidation, saying it does not comment on market rumors and speculation. What is not speculation is every U.S. airline is feeling the impact of the surging jet fuel prices since the beginning of the conflict with Iran. Tony?
A dangerous weather situation is unfolding in the Midwest tonight. Parts of Michigan are underwater, and in Sheboygan, levels at a threatened dam here hit the highest point yet this week. Meteorologist Rob Marciano is tracking a new round of storms for the Northeast and Southern Plains. Rob, I mispronounced that town name, but they got bigger problems than that. Good evening.
You've got it, Sheboygan, for sure. They've actually been working on that bridge this week because of that rising water. All the rivers in that Michigan watershed are overflowing, or at least getting close to overflowing. There and in Wisconsin, where Milwaukee has already set a record for rainfall for the month, and we're barely halfway through the month of April. And yes, there is a little bit more rain coming, not just tonight, but especially tomorrow. Another 1 to 3 inches across that area. We've got severe thunderstorm watches that are posted for Little Rock, southern parts of Missouri, and the Heartland. And the threat for seeing severe weather across upstate New York. Again, large hail, damaging winds, maybe a tornado. Tomorrow, we really reset the stage. This is going to shake up the pattern here. This system will bring potentially strong tornadoes from Oklahoma City to Wichita to Kansas City, Des Moines, and up through hard-hit Wisconsin tomorrow through tomorrow night. And then during the day on Saturday, we'll get into the Ohio River Valley. Slightly less risk, but still all hazards in play there. Obviously fed by some of this record-breaking heat that tomorrow, once again, will at least approach 90 degrees in Raleigh and Atlanta, cooling a bit in the Northeast. But the entire East Coast doesn't cool down absolutely until the end of the weekend. Tony?
Rob, thank you very much. Late today, we talked to the astronauts of Artemis 2, one of their first interviews since returning from the far side of the moon. And since my first question happened to be the same as one of our younger viewers, Jack, who says he's obsessed with space, we let him take it.
Hi, thank you for sending pictures to the world. What was your favorite thing you saw on the moon?
So, Jack, if you couldn't quite catch it, said, thank you for sending pictures of the world. What was your favorite thing you saw on the moon?
Yeah, Jack, we found this on the far side of the moon. We found this thing that looked like somebody had left a handprint. And Reed and I spent a lot of time talking about this handprint on the backside of the moon.
And I just want to add, when the sun eclipsed behind the moon and we were looking out the window at this really just a dark, matte gray sphere right outside of our window, it was the most unique thing and the most unexpected thing I think that I saw for sure on this entire mission. It was beautiful and just completely unexpected. My brain could not process what I was looking at out the window.
Now that it's over, now that you're back, and Jeremy, I'll start with you. How do we hold on to that wisdom and perspective that we all had for the 10 days that you were up there?
I think it's easier than we make out, and it's just fighting the sense that we're powerless. And my sense of hope is now renewed that I saw everybody else flock to this mission and hold that true for them.
Just never forget what it was like to let someone and a mission carry your hopes, your heart, and your dreams with it, and to trust in that process, to trust that we humans decided to do this, to do something so great, and that we are carrying back everything that we learned, not only about where we went, but about ourselves.
We started this journey back in April of 2023 talking about how this was not a marathon or a sprint, but a relay race. If you need something physical, go out, buy a baton, and as long as the baton is passed, this race is still going. So it's a physical reminder that we are still going. Even while we're not up there in space, the mission continues. We can't wait to hand off those batons.
We also asked them what it was like readjusting from way up there to life back here. They said they love gravity, they love plumbing, and Victor Glover said he really loves his couch. It's good to have him home. Coming up next, Val Kilmer back on the big screen thanks to artificial intelligence. What it could mean for the future of Hollywood, and a Wild West-style police chase in New York City. Actor Val Kilmer died last April, and yet he is starring in a new movie made after his death. How's that work? The filmmakers have resurrected his voice and image using artificial intelligence. The Kilmer family has agreed, but some in Hollywood are worried, especially after seeing the new trailer. CBS News senior tech and business correspondent Jolene Kent explains.
Don't fear the dead, and don't fear me.
With the help of AI, a never-before-seen Val Kilmer is starring in this new movie trailer 1 year after the actor's death.
You can be my wingman anytime.
The real-life Kilmer was known for 80s and 90s blockbusters like Top Gun, Batman Forever, and Tombstone.
I'm your huckleberry.
Kilmer was originally set to star in the upcoming Western As Deep as the Grave, but bowed out due to throat cancer. Prior to his death, he and his family granted the filmmakers permission to use his likeness with AI.
Of course, it's not the real Val Kilmer, but it is a tribute to him.
Brothers Corti and John Voorhees directed and produced the film respectively, telling us it took 7 minutes to render Kilmer's likeness for the screen.
People have criticized the film, saying the movie doing such a thing is disrespectful. What's your response to that?
Artists are actually losing out right now on the control of their likeness, their brand, all of these things. And so there has to be leadership on this, and we believe we're taking a small forward step in this.
This iteration of Kilmer arrives amid a pervasive debate in Hollywood over AI's role in the business.
The theft of real people's likeness it should be condemned.
And as my brother said, and I'll echo, we are here to help establish the guardrails.
The AI version of Kilmer is not just a cameo. The filmmakers told me he's in the movie for more than an hour. And the Actors Union SAG-AFTRA told CBS News that any use of an actor's likeness requires the permission of that actor or their estate. Tony.
The real version of Jolene Kent, thank you. Up next, a historic big money milestone for a WNBA superstar. In a case of shoot first and negotiate later, WNBA star A'ja Wilson, a former #1 draft pick and league MVP, just re-signed with the Las Vegas Aces for the biggest money contract in WNBA history. 3 years, $5 million, a supermax deal, but others could follow under the league's new collective bargaining agreement negotiated just last month. Pensacola beachgoers saw something else to make them go woo this week. Take a look at it. 6 of the U.S. Navy's Blue Angels and 6 of the U.S. Air Force's Thunderbirds uniting in a rare Super Delta formation. The U.S. military called it a display of skill and discipline and part of a wider joint training exercise. New York City got its first motorized police car more than a century ago, but there are still some horses on patrol. And New Yorkers saw one of them in action yesterday, a member of the city's mounted patrol known as the 10-foot cops because of their high visibility, galloping after an alleged thief, dodging Manhattan traffic to make the arrest. Officer Kyle McLaughlin and his horse Kelly there also recovered the stolen purse. Up next, the good stuff. If only all of us could have a bond as special as this. We're back with the good stuff, and tonight the story of a bond between a grandmother and the dog next door. You might have seen a small part of this one online. Pictures of 96-year-old Barbara Collins next to this 150-pound Newfoundland named Chewy are quite something. But so is their gardening video. She points and then he digs. But there's so much more to this. Chewy lives next door to Barbara with Barbara's granddaughter, Amy Savino, and her 3 kids, Barbara's great-grandchildren. Which is about when you realize that Chewy isn't just the dog next door. He's more like another great-grandchild. And he happens to be the one that Grandma really spoils, with ice cream and cupcakes and sleepovers and lots of presents on Christmas and all of his favorite people foods from grilled cheese to cheeseburgers. And Chewy lets Grandma dress him up for Easter and Valentine's Day, and he always runs over, and he would do anything to protect her. In other words, while parents give the baths and make the kids eat vegetables, grandmas are pure love. And Chewy, as the littlest, furriest great-grandkid, gets a lot of it. Grandma says there's a lesson in this for everyone.
Love is the most important thing. If you love, you have everything. And I love, and that's the best I can give you. He's a wonderful dog.
Barbara told us it's actually hard to put into words what Chewy really means to her, but for the millions upon millions of people who have watched them together online, we understand. No words required, Barbara. That's another day in America. I'm Tony DeCopel. We hope to see you back here tomorrow night. For now, good night.